I'm Darren. So I've been playing on the organ for about 3.5 years. I just switched from playing piano to trying out the organ. And I don't know, it seemed like the next step on what to do, but I didn't have any training on what to do. And so there was another organist in the ward who had put numbers on each of the hymns. And so he said, you're gonna go to this preset, and if you're playing this hymn, push a 7, this one do a 10. And that was kind of just my experience playing. I wanted to feel more confident in playing, and so I realized how I played wasn't the same as how other people who were more accomplished were playing, and I could tell that there was a little bit of difference, and so I just wanted to improve my skills so I could better serve my word. I did play on the organ. In fact, when I came to this ward, I used the expression pedal, or what's the pedal on the furthest right called? The crescendo pedal. And I was like, okay, if it goes up to 40%, that sounds good for sacrament hymns, and if it goes up to 70%, that sounds good for other hymns. So instead of even using the stops, that's what I had used to pre-select the stops. So I didn't expect a lot coming in, because that seemed to do fine for my ward and what I wanted at the moment. I think probably the most common answer is playing with your feet. I remember being approached and asked if I wanted to play and that I would be playing with my feet, and I said I'd try it out, and if it didn't work, I would just quit. So that was my biggest hesitation, is playing with both the manuals and with the foot pedals. Pedals, I didn't know anything about. I knew some things about the pistons from my previous ward, but the stops, I didn't know which ones to pick, so not confident at all. For me, I think one of the best things that the organist can do is they can really select the mood that the hymns bring out. So as we're reading through the text of the hymns, we're able to decide what type of tones and sounds we want, and so there's a lot of control and influence that we can have to help support the congregation in their singing and in their worship. Oh, it was scary. It felt like I had a third arm and I was trying to figure out where to put it, and I would frequently mix up my tenor and my bass just because I'm used to playing them at the same time. So it was like I had never used my feet before, learning how to use my feet. I feel like I learned more about the role that the organist has in accompanying the congregation and how we can better help them worship. And so I felt like instead of just taking it as I know how to play the piano and so I'm the pianist, it's I can help my ward better in worshiping Jesus Christ. And so it gave me more skills to do that. A recent example is there was a 3-note chord and we were doing our thumb glissandos, and that was pretty challenging. I just kept working at it. It was helpful because then when I went back to 2-note thumb glissandos, that helped, but that was hard. So I feel like you just have to do hard things. I feel like I'm now in control of the organ, and so instead of it doing everything and I'm just hoping to push the right buttons, I feel like I'm in control of what I'm playing, how it sounds, how I'm helping people worship, and so I feel like I've become a better instrument rather than just something to be acted upon by the organ. I feel like I'm more listening to the congregation and to the music rather than worrying about if I'm pushing the right notes. As a pianist, I was more worried about am I reading the sheet music correctly, whereas now I feel like I'm listening to the messages of the hymns and I'm helping my congregation. I have been playing a lot more confidently, and I can tell that has helped the congregation sing more confidently and have more confidence in my abilities as the organist, and so our focus can now be on the messages of the hymns rather than on the music that the organist is trying to play. The tones add a lot, and so you can have more reverent type music, you can have more jubilant music, so that that helps give variety, and it attaches the music better to the words that are being sung instead of just the same type of sound for each hymn. I would say the organ is hard, but that the Lord loves effort and that He will help you as you're playing. So it took me like a month and a half to learn some of the basic and even simplified hymns, but now I'm starting to learn the hymns from the text a lot more quickly. And so it is hard, but you are capable of doing it. I feel like it sounds better, and it's not like a performance like we're trying to boast who we are, but I feel like it allows the focus to be on the messages that are being shared rather than on the techniques that we're playing in. So I feel like it just shifts the focus more on Jesus Christ and not on someone trying to play an instrument. Yes, I would definitely recommend it, both for you as the organist. You will feel a lot more confident in your playing. You'll have a lot more skills, so you'll be able to play the way that you want to play that will help your congregation. And for the church, I think it's helpful to have people that know how to play the organ because it is such a unique instrument and it will definitely add to the spirituality of the meeting.
I've been playing piano since I was 6. I've been more committed to it starting in junior high. In doing the organ, I've been an organist for a while and wanted to be confident in doing things like playing the pedals and making sure I chose the right instrumentation and whatnot. I played the organ as like an organist in my home ward for a couple of years, but didn't do much besides just sight reading what I would normally do on the piano. I expected that I would learn how to use all of the technical things with the organ, specifically getting a lot of the pedal technique was kind of my focus. I would say it's been more concerned with being able to effectively provide music for the congregation that would be helpful for them. A lot of the times, like, I would just ignore the pedal, but then, there's weird things that happen when you don't play with the pedal. So that's, I would say, most of my concern with it. pretty much not confident at all. I just use the presets for the stops, and then every once in a while it was like, oh, I could hold this note with the G whenever it gets too wide for my left hand. I would say definitely being able to choose registration and being able to use the pedal. It gave me a lot of freedom in how I play the hymns, adding variety, especially putting in more effort to make it more of a spiritual experience rather than just playing through the hymns. I would say it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be with using the pedals, because I thought it was going to be a lot more complicated with if I was using my toe or my heel, and so being able to practice it and learn it using like a good note-taking way of like using the circle and the caret there has been super, I would say, a lot easier than I was expecting, and it made it easier to play the hymns in general. I would say I'm a lot more confident in being able to bring the Spirit to the congregation and in being able to effectively play a variety of hymns, not just in the hymn book. So I can add a lot more to the repertoire I do, and especially in being able to take a lot of the new hymns and transition it to what I'm actually playing. I would say it's a lot more invested, and if I'm not prepared, it's way more scary because I know what I'm not doing, and then if I am prepared, it's a lot more satisfying. I think it's been a huge increase. One of my friends who moved into the ward is, because we had the giant ward change, he came and said like it was a lot more enthusiastic. There was a lot more power in the organ, and everybody was more unified in singing out, rather than when he was in a family ward, it was not at all that way. A lot of the hymns have very important meanings and thoughts, especially for testimony meetings, that you want to be able to take out from the hymn. For example, this last week I played I Stand All Amazed with a lot of changes in registration, and it really helped the people who were in sacrament to think about the words of it and to really get a lot more of the Spirit, and they bore testimony of some of the words in I Stand All Amazed. I mean, there's a lot of little skills that you'll be learning that aren't that difficult, like basic pedal technique, and you still have your old way of playing the organ, right? If you are wanting to be an organist, you can still rely on that as you're still learning little things here and there, but it just adds so much variety to do little things such as holding out the right notes as you need it, or using the pedals so that the hymns are easier to play than they were before. And so it's not, I would say, as big of an investment as you're afraid of. Like, it looks really sketchy at first with all of, those thousands of buttons, but it's pretty quite clear, and little things that you add make such a big difference. I'd say without trained organists, you get either people who know how to play the piano well and are playing it, which is fine, but it doesn't add depth and variety to the playing, and it doesn't have you focus on the hymns as much. It tends to be very casual feeling. Whereas, if you don't know how to play the piano or the organ very well, then it starts to be an issue because it can take away from the Spirit because you're making lots of mistakes and whatnot. And so having a trained organist is really important so that you can really be able to get the most out of the hymns, and it's not a casual thing. It actually adds to the sacrament. I would absolutely recommend something like this. I think the training of one-on-one gives really good accountability and helps you to consistently improve, and know how to learn it. It's really hard to like learn something new when you're not being guided by somebody like that. And if you were to do it in a group setting or a group training, it's going to be a lot more difficult because there's little weaknesses and strengths that everybody has. Everybody's going to be in a different spot. And so this sort of a thing will help you to progress faster, more efficiently, and help you to be a lot more self-reliant as you continue to play the organ.